I've printed some of my images big, really big, and one of them even bigger than A0. In this video I'm going to tell you how many megapixels you actually need to print that big, how I chose for the right paper, how I printed the image, and how I fine-tuned the prints to get them perfect finally. And yeah, I mean, also lots of useful tips what you have to consider already when you're out on location and photographing so that you're able to print that big afterwards. Everything like that in this video. Hi my friends, very nice to see you. You know, I like to print my best images. I really enjoy this, and usually I print them on finetuned paper on my own printer. I hang them up on my wall, my clients hang them up on their wall. I offer open edition prints, I offer limited edition prints, but from time to time I offer also special editions. Maybe with another type of paper or another printing material, another editing, and most importantly in large format. So just that you get an idea, let me show you one of these prints, and it's really big. So I have to go a little bit to the distance here. It's 1 and 2 meters in the width. It's more than 90 centimeters high, so definitely too big for the bedside table or something like that. And you know, on my finetuned printer, I'm limited to A2, the size of A2. So whenever I want to print bigger than A2, I choose for a reliable print office. I will tell you in a minute how I decide for the right print office. Let's talk about paper choice first. And usually I prefer different sorts of finetuned papers for my A3 and A2 prints. And when you go closer to a print, you see the different texture on the paper. You see different behavior of brilliance. And each paper has a kind of dynamic range. So yeah, but it's not really called dynamic range on paper. It's called the max. It just defines the possible tonality the paper offers. And yeah, it's the difference between white and black, obviously. And I'm quite happy with my finetuned paper, to be honest. And also, if you go closer to the print, you see amazingly many details. And the texture can really add here to your composition. But on my experience, for bigger prints, really big ones, images that are bigger than A1, it does not really make sense to consider that people go that close to find details. And so I have the possibility to use other materials than for my small prints, or yeah, let's say normal prints, because yeah, A2 is also not really small. So I'm more flexible here with the printing material. And I had the following thoughts when I was choosing for the right material for my special edition prints. You can use metal surfaces like LED bar, for instance. You can use acrylic glass, or just print a poster, or you can also use canvas, for instance. But we should consider there are big differences between the materials. And it is not only all about the haptic experience. For me it is important that the material is able to show my image with those colors and with that tonality I want to have as an artist. And yeah, I mean, you are quite limited with the metal surfaces here. Poster doesn't look all the exclusive or valuable for me, to be honest. Yeah, it doesn't really feel right for me for a piece of art, to be honest. And acrylic glass could look nice, but it simply doesn't fit to each room. I mean, from the physical appearance, yeah, it's well for the kitchen or for the staircase maybe, but it could look too sterile for a nice living room, for instance. I mean, it always depends on the house or on the apartment, of course. But these are definitely things we should consider when it comes down for choosing the right surface. And there is one material that works quite universal for me, beside finetuned papers, and this is canvas. It doesn't matter which room it is, it doesn't matter how your interior looks, canvas fits quite everywhere. Again, it's the same with finetuned paper, but as it should get a special edition, my final decision for the printing material was canvas in that case. Well, canvas is a great choice here, but canvas is not canvas. This is really important. I use canvas out of line, and that's even the original material of canvas, but some print offices also offer just a kind of plastic canvas, so be careful here what you finally really get. And what we have to consider here is line tends to make everything a bit warmer. Now, each paper, each printing material has typical behavior here, and line simply makes everything quite warm. That's not a problem. We can consider this with soft proofing, which means I simulate on the monitor how the image will finally look when it is printed on the specific material. No problem at all. You can cool it down a bit and shift the color slightly to correct it, but you could also do something totally different. You could use the special behavior of canvas to make an own edit, where you try to use this behavior even to your advantage. And this is what I did. As these are special edition prints, I edited them again for the warmer canvas. And I decided to use even some of the warmer tones in the compositions, just because it's a special edition. But very important, we should also consider there is one big problem with canvas. It usually doesn't have that big Dmax, like I used for fine art papers. Again, Dmax is the dynamic range of the paper. And as the printing offices use different canvas or different materials, therefore, the most important thing for me was the choice of the right printing office. And what I did is I looked for different ones and I downloaded their ICC profiles. What is an ICC profile? With that I can simply simulate how my print will look afterwards on the paper, on the canvas in that case. Yeah, that's soft proofing. And I made already a video about this topic and where I go a little bit more into detail and where I also give lots of tips about getting better prints. So if you're interested about that, I will link it up there for you. So I used the ICC profiles and I had a look at the tonality of my image, or in other words, I had a look how many details I could see in the shadows and how the bright parts appeared. And quite interesting, there were really big differences. The printing resolutions, dots per inch, DPI, is also not uninteresting, but Dmax, the dynamic range, was much more important for me. I would rather relinquish some DPI, but if you don't have enough Dmax, the contrasts will simply miss, especially in the dark areas. And everything would look dark and flat than in the shadows. A quite good tip here is don't look only at the big printing offices. Sal Digital and Whitewall are quite good here, but also have a look at your local print offices. They may be a tiny bit more expensive, but it could be that they offer better quality in the end. Again, it's a special edition. It's not all about saving 20 euros for the production or something like that. I simply wanted to get the best possible quality. My friends, just for the case that you like this video, you know I make no secrets here on my channel. I enjoy to help you out. I share everything with you. Please help me out as well today with a quick thumb up. If it's possible for you, I mean, it helps me, it helps the algorithm, and it helps also other photographers out there to find this video better on YouTube. Thank you therefore. So all in all, I've printed 5 different images, 4 with 1 meter of width and 1 with even 1 meter and 20. So if you've seen the print already, it's really big. And if you go for quality canvas, this can get really expensive. So very important is that you don't only rely on your soft proofing talent. It's a quite good idea also to hard proof your prints. This simply means that you order a smaller version of your prints just to get an idea if the tonality and especially the contrasts in the darker areas really look like that you want. And I also look if the color temperature and the colors are how I want to have them, especially when I'm using a material that makes bigger changes here as it is for line canvas. And I calibrate my monitor all few months. I even soft proof only when the monitor is warm. So always to have the same circumstances on soft proofing. It's not much, but there are tiny differences. And I'm really careful. But anyway, you don't get your prints always to 100% like on your monitor. So hard proofing is really important if the result should really get on point. And these are some of my hard proofs. Just let me show you. These are simply smaller versions of the final print, so I will not show you all of them now, but just as already mentioned, I have 5 special edition prints. You can have a look at my website if you want. I show all the prints and also detailed photographs of them. also that you can see how the surface looks and so on. And yeah, I simply was able to check them in detail, and this is also a process that simply takes time. I took a whole week or even a little bit more just to look at these 5 and to study them, to think about the composition again, about the story I want the image to tell in combination with my new edit. I use a light source with a quite high quality of light. This is an intelligent lamp from BenQ, by the way. It considers the ambient light and gives me a stable light source. A really cool lamp, by the way. I will link it down in the description for you so that you can check it out by yourself. And the hard proofs give you also a quite good idea already about the haptic experience of the end product, of the picture finally. And also the thickness of the stretcher bars makes a big difference here. I have 2 centimeters here on this one, so that's just 2 centimeters, but I have 4 centimeters on the final print stamp because they are much bigger. 2 centimeters were not enough here. And so it looks more stable and even more valuable when you use thicker ones. But we also should not overdo it, of course. So 4 centimeters worked well here for my special editions. Well, now we have soft-proofed for the canvas, we have even hard-proofed, and now we just have to place an order for the big versions at the print office. And as such a big print costs really a lot of money, it could happen that you start to hear questions in your head like, are the megapixels enough for printing that big? Yeah, I mean, that's an important question. So we have hard proofs too, but we simply don't know if the megapixels are enough for printing big. We could print a fraction of the image enlarged to a small canvas, or what I did is, I simply had a look at the numbers of the horizontal pixels of my digital image, and I just divided them through the width of I wished to print, my print size finally. And this gives me an idea of how many dots per inch, or dpi, are possible without losing any information. A canvas is usually printed with a resolution of around 200 dpi, so if your photo has more than that, you will not lose any information. But we should also consider the bigger an image, the bigger will also be the distance between the viewer's eyes and the image. It's finally the same principle as with oil paintings, and let me show an example. This is one of the oil paintings of my grandfather, and it looks really fantastic, doesn't it? But when we go closer, we suddenly start to see all the strokes and all the details. It doesn't look all too, I don't want to say it's blurry or something like that, but it doesn't look, we don't see so many details there, and it's the same with big prints, with big photographs. You are never that close that it would get a problem, also when your DPI are a bit lower. And what I did for my image, which are around AO and bigger, I simply tried to reach 200 dpi at least, but also 180 dpi had not been a problem. And some of my special edition prints have been photographed with a 61 megapixel camera, my Sony a7R4, but some of them just with a 24 megapixels camera with my Sony a6500. And to be honest, I can't see a difference. But if you're unsure, or if the resolution is really too low in your case, you could upscale your image with an AI upscaling software, and this works really stunning well, I have to say. So Topaz Gigapixel is quite good software here, for instance, but also Photoshop supports an upscaling tool meanwhile. But there's one really important thing with upscaling. On my experience, this only works when you have nailed the focus. So always check already out on the field if the focus works. Yeah, I simply have a look at the test shot, I zoom in to 100%, and I justify if it's necessary. And this is really important. Always go home with a sharp image. And for the case that you shouldn't know how and where to focus in landscape photography, watch this video here, this will really help you. Give me a thumb up if you like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you next Saturday. Bye.
I'm the landscape you need to see. You are the artist I'll never be.